Yeah, I guess we can get started. I see a couple of people in the audience. Hey, everyone. I guess a great start. I can give just 1 minute intro about myself and then we can get in. I'm Pietro. I'm from Italy. I'm calling from Grey London at the moment, and I am a VC at Stride VC, which is a fund, a venture fund based in London. And yeah, super excited to be here. Big fan of remote work, collaboration, all of that stuff. So, Sondre, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and SafetyWing?
Yes, so my name is Sondre, and I am from Norway. I grew up grew up a little bit on the internet, had my first sort of company in my room, which we worked on IRC, and it was kind of like a foreshadowing on how everyone works now with Slack.
Right.
I then studied economics, worked as a policy advisor for the government of Norway on their social safety net there. Became a bit disillusioned with politics because it's slow, big organizations, and found that I had to return to startups. So I made a company called Superside, a freelance. It's a teams of freelancers doing projects for companies. Wanted to provide benefits for our kind of worldwide freelancers. Nobody offered it. Decided to build it ourselves, and that became the genesis of SafetyWing.
Okay, amazing. And so what's the problem that you're trying to solve at SafetyWing?
The problem that we're trying to solve is a big change that is happening in the world. I would suggest maybe the biggest one is remote work. Yeah. Because it has enormous secondary effects. One of the biggest one is turning the world into a global labor market. And a lot of the infrastructure is built along national boundaries, is becoming obsolete. It doesn't work anymore. It doesn't work for an entity kind of hiring internationally. They can't access a lot of the infrastructure that is set up to handle that. We're focusing on building the part of the infrastructure that is the social safety net. That means health, retirement, and income protection as a replacement for national welfare systems that they can no longer access. And we believe that if this is done well and right at this moment, it has the potential to substantially improve the sort of equal opportunity and freedom for everyone.
That's amazing. And can you expand a little bit more on the lack for this type of social safety net? So in which situations would I not have access to the net, and in which one, thanks to you, would I be enabled?
Yes. So if you are a digital nomad, you certainly can't, right? So I'm from Norway. I live in the US. Both my co-founder Sarah was a digital nomad for many years. So she was actually a cancer survivor, and she then became digital nomad, was a musician and a programmer, and lived in many different countries, and very much had that experience of I'm not bringing with me the social safety net from Norway.
Yeah.
And that's a big lack, and there's really no way of recreating it either. So that's kind of an example. Anyone who live in a foreign country, you can't bring your home country services with you, and you have to kind of figure it out where you are. So that's one example. Another example is just international hiring. So you have like a company like SafetyWing, right? So everyone who works in SafetyWing are remote workers, digital nomads, obviously. And we have to figure this out. Before we made our own product, we had to figure it out, right? You hire someone in Mexico or in Indonesia. You have to it's typically we won't make a local entity everywhere in the world, right? Which means we have to hire them. Perhaps we have a few options, but quite often it ends up as in contractor.
Yeah.
And then we have the option to try to figure this out locally in Indonesia, but the default is that, and what happens in most countries is, as a contractor, you don't fall into the normal system for full-time employees. And you're just not qualified for most of the national system things, and it can be quite difficult to buy the local insurances, private insurance. Even you can buy it as an individual, but that's much more expensive. And so there you have it.
Amazing. And so how do you solve that from a product standpoint?
You create a global product, globalized insurance product that works across borders. That means that they're identical in every jurisdiction. And from the user's point of view, they work in every country the same way. So that if you hire someone in Argentina, if you're an individual, you can be on the same policy, and if you move, you can stay on the same policy.
Yeah.
And you have to do that in a deep way, like so that the infrastructure of delivering it with the medical providers work the same, and the policy itself.
And so I assume it's a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of process, but once it's done, you're able, on your side, like once you do it for enough countries and have enough coverage, the idea is that long-term you can really cover the whole world, essentially.
Yes, that is correct. We see ourselves, our secret mission is building a country on the internet, and we see the social safety net as the first part. And that's exactly how I think this will play out into the future, that countries as they are today will still have a function, but they'll kind of work like city governments. They'll have a slightly different role, but that most people, for a lot of the things we today get from a country, will be global, and you will have countries on the internet, and we'll be the first one.
I love that. And how long will it take you in terms of process, and how does city by city or country by country work on your backend?
Yes, so you have to, insurance is one of those that is more regulated for good reason.
Yeah.
Of almost any industry. So you need multiple layers of licenses. That's the first part. So you need, and there are also different parts to the product. So you have an insurance, you need a license to sell an insurance, you need a license to carry the risk, be a carrier, you need a license for a particular product, you need a license to be an underwriter, meaning to guarantee the product. So part of the difficult part of the problem we are solving is to navigate that landscape, and that means being able to persuade regulators, underwriters, insurance partners to go along with our product vision, roughly. So that's that can sometimes be a year-long process. We're getting very good at it. We've done it now multiple times. We're good at building this international infrastructure, but it's the hardest part.
Yeah, of course. And how does that reflect on the pricing of your product from a consumer standpoint?
Yeah, so we have the Digital Nomad product. That's a consumer product made for that, which kind of has to be very cost competitive because it's an individual buying it often. Yeah. So that's average like $50 a month, and you buy it on a monthly subscription that you can cancel whenever.
Amazing.
And you can buy it when you're already traveling, and it's a fairly straightforward, simple product. And then we have the health insurance. So that has the added benefit of you can have it in your home country. So it's a truly global policy. That starts at $150 a month. You can also buy it as a company, then there's discounts, but $150. And you can also add dental and maternity to that one.
Okay. And your idea is to grow this B2C or B2B?
The answer there is both, and I know that's very often that's the wrong answer, but kind of I'll explain why I think it has to be the right answer with this particular market. So it's much more fluid in this in the internet economy between B2B and B2C. So a third of our quote unquote consumer clients are entrepreneurs, actually, and so we see of it as kind of like an upgrade. You can start with one, and then you can keep adding employees in a way. That's one reason. Another reason is you leave a company. This idea of portability is something we think is crucial in the future, and you have to take that into account on the infrastructure level, which is you leave a company, you can keep your insurance, the same plan, no lapse in the plan. You join a company, you can keep your plan. But right now, I should be fair. It's the companies where we're seeing the most growth. So we actually added the possibility for companies just 6 months ago, and that has had 1,200% growth in 6 months from March till this month. And that is obviously because we got a lot of tailwinds with a lot of companies going remote and figuring this stuff out.
Of course, that makes sense. And is it the same process across retirement and income protection? Like, do you move them in parallel, or it's completely different processes and you have to treat all three as completely different? Health insurance. Yeah.
There are definitely overlaps in logic. And we're getting quite good at this, as we do it again and again. So to say what is similar, is that it's some combination of an easier to get license in every country and a harder to get one that you only need in one. With pensions, however, there are some things we have to solve to achieve portability, which we don't have to do with insurance. And that adds another layer we had to solve so this product isn't live, that's not live till next summer, but we've already solved the infrastructure part, the back end of it. Essentially, you have one place where you create, every person who has pension savings gets their own trust. That's kind of how you avoid double taxation, and also the portability of it. So you have like a trust so you haven't technically received the money, so you don't have to tax it, and therefore you can get it paid to whichever jurisdiction. That's roughly it. That's kind of roughly the added layer. The other added layer is, of course, where do you invest the money? There you just work with a funds provider. That also is just done in one place, and that's not that complex. So we work with a funds provider, and it's global index funds.
Yeah, of course, that makes sense. All right, so if we zoom back a little bit on, let's say, your life and interests, how did you first become interested in, nomadism and remote work? Obviously, you said that in your previous company you did have some experience with it, but was it something that you always thought about? How did it come along?
Yes. Yes, I have found it, very romantic, since I was, very young. This idea of living on the internet, growing up on the internet, and kind of finding this new world there. I do think it is the kind of final frontier right now. There are three it's like space, the ocean, or the internet. And I chose the internet. Well, I don't know how to get to space.
Play video games and stuff like that as well.
Yeah. So that's one part. And through the internet, have had international friends, and so I've just been early into this stuff, and was kind of similarly early into digital nomad community, as that was starting to take root. And so I suppose it's just where in a sense, it just feels like where I grew up. I can't quite pinpoint the moment of interest. I do remember the moment, because I did have the normal life for a while. Right after college, I worked in this parliament, as I said, and I had to quit my job there. And then I wanted, I had to save a little bit. I knew that idea that if you become a nomad, you can move to a low-cost location, and then your personal runway gets longer without doing anything else. I'm living in Oslo, which is a very high-cost city, and there are kind of different places. The Chiang Mai, Bali of the world are the best, quality of life per dollar. But I was thinking Berlin, which was at the time actually, a pretty great deal and a fantastic city. So I was I was saving up, I was quitting my job and kind of trying to get some freelancer income on the side and to start a company. And the idea was I could start a company with some other digital nomads and who are in the similar situation, because you don't just have to work like 1 day a week, and then 2-3 of us can start a company without funding. That was the logic of it. I think people are still discovering that kind of one by one. It's like, I don't have to have this job I hate in this expensive city. I can just get a small income, and then can start a company with some friends. So that was kind of the plan. But then that company worked out very quickly, and we got into Y Combinator, and then I moved to Silicon Valley before I ever moved to Berlin.
That's big. That's cool. I mean, you're still remote, right? I guess.
Yep.
And okay, so going back to the company, you just said before that obviously COVID was like very strong tailwinds, but how did it really impact the demand for your product? Was it immediate? Was it insane? How did your team grow as a result? And what's the story there?
Yeah. So COVID for us was, a super interesting time because we were in the center of it in some ways because we had customers all over the world. So we heard about it sooner. We have included this evacuation thing in the policy as well. So we evacuated thousands of people who wanted to get out of places in sort of March to April. And that was an intense time. It was sort of like everyone hand on deck overnight on customer service type situations.
Yeah.
But most, as mentioned, stayed put and kind of did their sheltering in place wherever they were at, of our customers at least. And we then had to, we have this mantra in the company: all problems are solvable. So we had to redo our roadmap and kind of respond to this as well as we could. And we did that by fast forwarding the health insurance available for individuals as well. So that was one of the first thing we had to do, and we got that live in just a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And which allowed us to kind of get all the interest and growth that was for that product. It was a couple of months into the future originally. So that was kind of that. So yeah, for the health product, I mentioned that's been fantastic progress. For the Nomad product, that for the last quarter is actually really pointing upwards. So it's been almost a doubling in revenue the last quarter.
Okay.
The reason for that is a couple of reasons, but one is a lot of people have gone remote in the last 6 months, and they're now getting ready to move from San Francisco, where rents have fallen 31%, including all my friends. Have moved, and some of them are moving to Austin, some of them moving to Denver, some to LA. But a lot of them are basically going nomadic for a year.
That's exactly the same here in Europe. So I have so many friends right now who are in Lisbon, which is obviously very nice. Summer ends much later there. They have amazing food. It's much cheaper. So it's a no-brainer for companies that allow it. And so half of my friends are literally there right now, which makes sense. Yeah. That's
Lisbon
awesome.
is a fantastic city, and it's also a nomad hotspot.
Totally. All right. So where do you see the nomad work movement going forward? Do you think it will stay and keep increasing all the time, obviously with the tailwinds given by COVID? Do you think post-COVID it will sort of like revert to people going back to offices more and more, and almost going back to pre-COVID levels?
No. So I think essentially we will see a remote work boom this year and a nomad boom next year.
Okay.
And that will be facilitated by what we observe in people who go remote is that they usually stay where they're at for a while, and then they start to dawn on them that they don't have to stay. So some are very fast, but for some it just takes a while. It's like they just keep going here, keep paying the rent, and like, I'm sitting in this small apartment in this crappy city. I could be in Lisbon. That's one thing. The other thing is, of course, COVID will, gradually become better and better, and then you have this new wave of nomad visas. So 6 countries now. The latest one was Croatia, evaluating it, is making these nomad visas where they're trying to, replace some of their lost tourism thing with getting the nomads to move there. And they make these specialized 1-year visas. If you can, so the way Barbados has it is, if you make more than, I think it was 50K a year, and you can document that, then you can get a 1-year visa there. And tourists aren't allowed there. So now we have a situation where many countries, you're only allowed nomads. And that's a wave. So there are 6 countries now, but I think certainly many other countries will move that because there's so much motivation to try to make up for lost tourism income in any way possible. So so that's what I think. I think there's a nomad wave coming next year.
Okay, fantastic. And I actually never thought about the delayed effect given by the fact that people tend to first still stay in the status quo and keep staying in the same city, although they cannot really go to the office, and that makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. All right, so if we look at SafetyWing's product a little bit more from like a user experience perspective, how is it extremely simple on the consumer side in the sense that I just pay and I'm insured, or do you want to show the product to us? How does the experience work?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. I mean, sure, I could do that on the consumer side. So, all right. Let me say, tell me if that works.
Yeah.
All right. So here you see the consumer sign up. It's so $40 per 4 weeks monthly subscription. You pay more, by the way, when you're in the US because higher healthcare costs there. So it's I have to create a new account, but this is when you're logged in. But it's fairly straightforward. It's it's sort of like a handful of steps here. I guess we could actually click through it. So we don't ask once you sign up, the policy is live immediately, and you can buy it, whether you're still traveling. So if you're thinking like you need it, and it works almost anywhere in the world. It's just a handful of countries. It's sort of North Korea, Iran, Venezuela, and one or two others is the only ones where there are sort of limitations.
Okay.
And yeah, and the only place you cannot go is your home country. Of course, that can be a bit fleeting. The definition of home country is where you have received regular mail, and that you see as your primary one. So, so that's kind of a thing to know. For many nomads, they have a bit. They can have many places as their potential home country. So, this is something that comes up. So, okay, I put maybe, what did I do there? I think I must have, I didn't pay attention to what I was putting in as text test data. How did I get it? Well, let me see what okay. Well, I'll just, so ignore that. I think I must have chosen an older age by accident. I think that was what I did. So the 18 to 39 age is what the default price is at. Okay. And then I think I must have said that I'm over 65, actually, where it gets a very high. But anyway, so you can buy insurance here, and then you pay, and then that's it, actually.
So super simple. And then what do I get as a testament of the insurance, let's say?
Yeah. Okay. So let's see. So you have here then. I have a Facebook account connected. I may do. Yes, I do. All right. So
you have Justin from Yak who's saying that his backend dev is on a 6-month plan with you.
Aha. Oh, that's great. Yes. Yeah. So you have. You essentially have a card here when you log in. So I don't have. I'm not logged in on one with an active account, so I wasn't prepared. But essentially, you will have like an insurance card here, and then you can go to any sort of hospital, doctor in the world, or you can call a number, which is possibly the easiest way. Because if you call a number and they connect you, then you will for sure go to a place where they bill us directly, which is the best user experience. Because if you're not in some places can't bill us directly, and then you have to submit a claim here on the website after.
Yeah. Okay.
But that's roughly it. So you just have this card, and it's available on the website or your email, but you will typically have it on the website. So when then something happens, you won't have to pay for it yourself, kind of. And then it goes from month to month, and you can cancel it whenever. Or you can buy it for a 6-month period if you need like a visa proof or something like that.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
sounds pretty simple. Amazing, very cool.
Yeah.
And I guess last question from me is, if you look at, SafetyWing as a company, long term, as a startup coming out of YC, you probably already raised a hefty seed round. What's the next step, and where do you see the company going in the next 5 years?
Yeah. So we in the next 5 years, we plan to make every step of our product roadmap. So that means to make the retirement life, the other kind of insurances, and then to connect that to a membership that is a truly global social safety net. So that works for both individuals and companies, so that you can have like an extremely high quality social safety net, like the one we have in Norway, but just anywhere in the world. And we will for sure be there in 5 years. And then in a way, begins a real journey, which is building a country on the internet.
Nice. Can you actually repeat a little bit how the safety net in Norway works?
Yes. So there are. I can do actually a little course series on this, but let me try to say something I can say in a few words. There are a couple of trade-offs when you make a social safety net. One is universalist versus kind of insurance. So that means, do you pay more to the people who pay in more, or is it sort of the same for everyone? Norway is kind of on the outer edge towards universalism, as are the Nordic countries, which means that many things are flat. So, for example, the minimum pension is flat. The child support is flat, meaning that everyone gets the same thing. It's kind of like the basic income idea it's even one step further in that direction. But the Nordic social safety net is already pretty far in that direction, in the universalist way. So that's one. And the other thing is that it's fairly simple. Like the original one that was made in 1967, you could read it and you could probably understand it. It's not like 1,000 pages. It's like a few pages. The logic is very coherent and consistent, and it kind of covers everything. So those are two things I find very cool and would love to eventually get to.
Amazing. Super cool. And are you thinking of raising funds for the goals that you have in the next months or year?
Yes, we are. So while we don't have to, we do. We have raised in the past. We do plan to. We want to build this as fast as possible, and investment can help us do that. We also, of course, find ourselves in the situation where we made this, global health insurance for remote teams at a time when everyone suddenly went remote. So there is a little window of opportunity, and we want to get that. So in the coming time, we will start conversation about raising our Series A and advancing our mission faster.
Super exciting. Love it, man. Thank you so much for taking the time and telling us your story. It was great hearing about such a new model that I didn't really know about before. So yeah, awesome to have you.
All right. Thanks, Pietro. Great conversation.
Yeah. Have a nice day, Sondre.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.